I had a mom tell me, I've taken away her phone, I've taken away her car keys, I've grounded her for weeks. She just looks at me and says, whatever, and walks away. She was talking about her 16-year-old daughter, Maya. And if this sounds familiar, you're dealing with something much bigger than defiance. Maya will stay out past curfew, she skips classes, she lies about where she's going, and when you try to discipline her, she acts like she could not care less. You can take away her phone, she'll use her friend's phone. You can ground her, she'll sneak out. Remove every privilege, she just shrugs and tells you she doesn't care. Here's what most parents miss. This is not about finding better consequences. If you're in a constant search for something that will finally make them listen to you, you're going to be searching for a long time, and I promise you're not going to get there. When your teenager truly does not care about consequences, you've lost something much more important than compliance. You've lost your relationship with them. I'm going to give you 5 things you can do, but first, I want to help you understand what's really going on. So yes, Maya is defiant, but that is not the real problem. That's just the one that was hard for this mom, because she was afraid Maya would do something that would hurt herself or screw up her future. The real problem is that Maya was no longer attached to her mom. If this is you, that means your relationship or the connection that you used to have, the one that gave your child a compass, the one that made them want to follow you, is now gone. And they no longer look to you for connection. Now they're looking sideways to their peers. If your child is not looking to you for guidance, but is looking at their peers for guidance, this is a major problem. And here's why. Their peers do not offer them any wisdom. They don't offer any life experience. They are, by definition, immature themselves. And so when our kids attach to somebody who is immature, that stunts them as well. In Maya's case, the consequences were irrelevant because her mother was no longer the person who mattered most to Maya. This is not normal teenage rebellion. This is actually attachment gone wrong. So when someone asks me, what do I do when consequences no longer matter to my teenager? My first response is, you cannot consequence your way back into your child's heart. You cannot punish them into caring about the relationship with you. So the task is not to find the unicorn of consequences that will finally get them to listen to you or stop doing what you want them to stop doing. This is where most of us get it wrong, and it's actually backwards because it focuses only on outcome, which is their behaviors, and it does not focus at all on the relationship, which is why the behaviors are the behaviors. One problem I've noticed with many parents is that when I explain this to them, it does not seem to sink in. It doesn't stick. It's almost like they think I'm being silly, or maybe they think the relationship is fine, and we really just need to focus on correcting the behaviors. And so they end up beating their head against a brick wall, trying to find something that will work. They become more and more punitive, never realizing that they're really just making the problem worse. So if you have a teenager who doesn't care about consequences, what do you do? There was an earlier episode I did called When Your Teen Pulls Away, 5 Steps to Rebuild That Connection. It'll give you 5 practical steps that you can take to draw your disconnected teen back to you. Here in this episode, I'm going to share 5 more strategies that will help you work with a teenager who doesn't care about your consequences. Strategy number 1, and this is really, really important. You have to focus on one goal and only one goal. And that goal is to find a way to reconnect with your teenager. This is a mindset shift that you have to make. And it means that you will do anything you can to find them, to reconnect with them. If I have a disconnected teen, I am 1000% going to focus all of my efforts on our relationship. So the entire dynamic of our relationship is going to change. I will never nag them. I will never lecture them. I will stop trying to control them. I will also never step in and soften or fix any natural consequences that might be coming their way. So for example, if my daughter was going to get arrested for shoplifting, I would let her get arrested. If my son got a $200 speeding ticket, I would not be paying for his ticket. But there will be no nagging. There will be no teaching, advising, persuading. Why? Because those things don't work, especially when your teenager is that disconnected from you. Now, I might try to appeal to her about how her behaviors are affecting me. but there will be no yelling, lecturing, or anything of that sort. So instead of saying, I can't believe you were out that late last night, or saying, I thought I told you never to come home that late, I might just say, hey, when you come home that late, I get really worried and I can't sleep, and it really affects my life. This is actually what we do in therapy with teenagers. When I see a teenager whose parents basically are dragging them in to see me, they're reluctant to even be there. My entire focus initially is to find a way to connect with them, because that is the only way they're going to listen to me and the only way that I'll ever have any influence with them. And that principle is true for you as well as a parent. So my main point here is that your mindset shift is to do anything. You focus on this singular goal of connecting or reconnecting with your teenager, rebuilding that bond. The minute you stray away from this goal by trying to control them, you will lose. I have lots of examples in my life, both as a dad and as a therapist, where I did almost anything I could to connect with them. With one daughter, I started reading vampire novels with her just so we could talk about them. That was her interest. I read a lot of vampire novels, probably not something I normally would be interested in. With my son, I started doing a lot of outdoorsy kinds of stuff that I normally would not do. That's not where my interests are, but I did it to keep him close. My point is that you have to meet your child where they are and do whatever it takes to reconnect with them, whatever it takes. Strategy number 2, let go of the power struggle. You've basically already lost it, but not in the way that you think. You haven't lost it because you're weak. Like Maya's mom didn't lose it because she was a weak or a bad parent. She lost it because Maya did not want to be attached to her anymore. The solution is not better consequences. The solution is reattachment. So start by looking at yourself honestly. When did you start losing your child? What was it that created the problem? Was it when they started spending more time with their friends, when they got their first phone, when middle school began? Most of us hand our kids over to their friends without realizing it. We actually think it's healthy for them to have friends and be independent and fit in, which it is healthy to do those things. But there's a difference between having friends and being disconnected from you. A teen who is attached to her parents can have friends without losing that connection. That's how it needs to be. Strategy number 3, work on invitation instead of demand. Teens who are disconnected from you will resist anything that feels like control. So the more you demand, the more they're going to pull away. This is why it's not about finding a better consequence. So instead of saying, you need to tell me where you're going, you might say, I worry when I don't know where you are. Please help me understand what's happening in your life. Or instead of saying, you're grounded until you show me respect, you might say, I miss you and I feel like we're not close anymore. This is really not about being soft. It's about being smart. And it's also about being real. Because you cannot force attachment, you can only invite it. Strategy number 4, create opportunities for connection that don't involve talking about problems. This means you are focusing away from lectures, criticism, and consequences. Those right now need to be banished from your vocabulary because your teen is already on guard and they're expecting that. So surprise your child. Talk about what interests them. With this girl, Maya, she loved music. So this mom started asking her about her music. And like I said, my daughter was reading vampire books. So I read them too, and then we could talk about them. She actually really enjoyed that. If your teen is disconnected from you, they are going to expect lectures, criticism, and consequences. So surprise them and don't give them any of those things. Finally, strategy number 5. You can still have boundaries and expectations of your child. This is not about trying to become their friend, but you can also be calm, matter-of-fact, and consistent while not being punitive. You don't fix their problems for them. Like I said, if they get arrested, you don't run out and hire the best attorney in town. Rescuing them to some parents feels like a form of love, like you're being a good parent, but it actually removes the very pain that might lead them to change. The goal is not to induce pain to control them out of their behaviors. That's what we think when we're trying to find a consequence that works. The goal is to connect with them and allow them to experience natural consequences from their own behaviors. What I'm asking you to do is risky because in essence, we're letting go. And it takes us to a place of fear. but it is the only place that will work. And instead of parenting from fear and control and consequences, I'm encouraging you now to parent from a place of love, invitation, and even vulnerability. So here's what I want you to try this week. Pick one interaction with your teen that usually leads to conflict. Instead of focusing on their behavior, I want you to focus on the relationship. Ask yourself, what is my teen trying to tell me right now? What are they communicating to me? What do they need from me right now? How can I respond in a way that brings us closer instead of pushing us apart? And then try something different. Instead of a consequence, offer connection. Remember, the goal really isn't to have a perfectly obedient teenager. The goal is to be their anchor in a world that's trying to pull them in every direction. Teens who are attached to their parents, of course, still make mistakes, but they come back to you. So when they're in trouble, they ask for help. When they're confused, they care about your opinion because they care about you. That is what we are working towards. Not compliance, but connection. If you're dealing with a teen who seems completely disconnected, who doesn't care about consequences, don't lose hope. The disconnection from parents will feel permanent to you, but it is not permanent. It can be reversed, but it requires a lot of work, some time, and a complete shift in the way you think about it. So instead of asking, how do I make them behave? Start asking, how do I reconnect with them? In essence, how do I win back their heart? You can explore more free resources at drtoddtalks.com. I have an entire parenting course dedicated to this very question of how to connect or reconnect with your teen. You can learn lots of other things on lots of other parenting subjects. So subscribe on YouTube, follow my podcast, and share this with someone who needs it. All right, I'll see you next time.